Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for logging in and joining us. Just had a really wonderful conversation about Halloween candy, but we'll shift to a more significant topic. But really appreciate everyone logging on today. I sent out the agenda yesterday. I apologize for putting in the wrong subject title. I somehow missed that, but put it right everywhere else but the actual subject title. But had the agenda for today. Really appreciate Damon, David, and Jerry being willing to kind of walk us through some of the different components. But before we move on, just quick introductions. We'll start in the room first and then go online. I'm Lance from AIC. I'm their policy analyst.
Jonathan Wheatley, also with AIC.
Daniel Moskevich, AIC.
Jerry Peterson, Home Energy Services.
Jerica, you're first on our screen. Do you want to start for us?
Sure. Jerica Stacy, the Director of Technical Training at the International Code Council, and I live in Ammon, Idaho. So I'm relevant to the group.
Always.
It's a good part of the state, Jerica. I love visiting over there. So
Beautiful.
I need to get back over there and go to Reed's Dairy. It's been a long time.
Yes.
Tess?
Get their huckleberry ice cream.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, hey, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Tess Studley at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance.
David?
Dave Freelove, Idaho Energy Code Circuit Rider. I live in the better part of the state, Western Idaho. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there, Jerica. Yeah, pleased to be here.
David, I was really hoping you're going to introduce yourself as user today.
That's
what
who?
it says user on your screen.
Oh, does it? Oh, it sure does, huh? I don't know why it says that.
Hey, you can be user if you want to, whatever you're feeling like. It's okay. We'll respect you.
Yeah, I'm user today. There you go.
Damon?
Hey, Damon Woods, University of Idaho Integrated Design Lab. Back in Boise after some time away in Canada. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you back, Damon. Hope that you've had a good time away.
Yep.
Todd?
Hey everybody, Todd Greenwell, Idaho Power.
Thanks for being on, Todd. Blake?
Hey all, Blake Ringeisen, Codes and Standards Engineer at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, tuning in from your neighboring state of Montana.
Good to have you on, Blake.
Thank you.
Ted?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Ted Lancey, City of Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you for joining us today, Ted. Will?
Hi, everyone. Will Smith with the Idaho Associated General Contractors.
Will, I just have to know, how does it feel to share the name with a famous celebrity?
It's good sometimes. I've never had to spell my name for anyone.
That is probably true.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for being on, Will. Appreciate you taking the time. Richard?
Richard Bigelow, City of Pocatello.
Thanks, Richard. Let's see. I should remember this. Last name Tarvin. Is it?
It's Brandon Tarvin, City of Fruitland Deputy, Planning and Zoning Administrator, Building Inspector, and Fire Chief.
Well, hey, thanks for being on, Brandon. I thought it was Brandon, but I didn't want to be wrong. So thanks for joining us. Brett?
Yeah, Brett Stoddard, City of Rexburg.
And Kevin?
Hi there, Kevin Rose. I work with Tess and Blake at NIA.
Thanks for being on, Kevin. And Sheree, I think you're our last one. You will close us out.
Sheree with Idaho Power.
And is that you, Kelly?
Yes.
Well,
I'm driving, so I don't know I didn't know if I was muted or not, and I couldn't figure out where to see if I was in my car. So
thanks for being on. I just had to ask because last time we had this meeting, I forgot to introduce Kelly, but the reason I was confused is it just showed up as Association of Idaho City, so I thought it was a duplicate. And then I got a text from Kelly saying, "Hey, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself," so I have to make sure to capture everybody. I don't want anyone feeling like they're left out.
Thanks, Lance.
All righty. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us today. I know there's been a lot going on in the process. Just some quick high level notes. I've sent everyone, of course, that email which walked through the calendar for the coming bit. But as part of that effort, just want to highlight that there will be a building code board meeting that will be on September 9th. And so just want to make sure that's on everyone's calendar. That's kind of our next target date as far as looking towards. And then also there will be those 2 meetings in October. So just want to make sure that that's on everyone's calendar. But as far as September 9th, October 15th, October 21st, those will be the meetings that we're kind of looking towards. But before we move on, David, is there anything that you wanted to talk about from training standpoint, looking ahead? Anything we should be keeping in mind? It looks like you're on mute.
I am. Say that again. I was writing down dates for training. What did you want me to talk about?
Yeah, just the trainings. Like I know that we'll have
Okay.
the air balance trainings, of course, and the DT trainings. But is there any other trainings you wanted to give an update on or plans for trainings?
Yeah, I'm in contact right now with Kellogg. Well, it's Shoshone County. It's going to cover Kellogg, Wallace, Shoshone County. And I'm talking with Tisha over at Post Falls. Touch bases. Once I get some preliminary dates on what's open, then I'll get a hold of you also too, Ted. And I'll get some stuff scheduled to do some training up there in North Idaho again. And then right after that, I'll be touching bases to get some more training scheduled in Eastern Idaho and maybe even try to hit the Wood River Valley. And then as well, I still need to get that commercial training scheduled. So I'll be contacting you, Damon, send you an email, see what your schedule's looking like.
All right. Yeah, sounds good.
And that's where I'm at. I just also did some, went up and did some training in Lewiston for NIC up there. They were pretty good turnout, pretty good training we had there. And then, yeah, and then you guys have got the dates for the air balance in DET, which I've got 2 air balances scheduled and 1 DET to finish out the rest of this year. And then also too, I got an invite to the MIA Energy Codes Conference in Milwaukee to do I'll be there with Tess actually to do some discussion on energy code circuit rider stuff and experiences and what to do's, what not to do type stuff. So do a panel discussion there at the MIA conference. And other than that, yeah, that's what I got right now.
Oh, great. Whenever those dates are finalized, David, we'll also
Will.
try to make sure to push that out to all of our members so we can continue to keep them updated on that. So keep them updated that way. And if there's any feedback that anyone has for us or any trainings that you feel like need to be provided, please feel free to share that with me and we'll do our best to keep records of that.
Okay.
Before I move forward though, just thinking about it, Jerica, is there anything from an ICC standpoint that you wanted to announce, anything we should be keeping on our radar or
I don't think so. I know that the Rios have met recently to talk about adoption in their states, and it looks like there's a lot of 2024 adoption on the horizon relatively soon. So I think we're getting really excited about that. But otherwise, yeah, we have our annual conference this October, and that'll be a lot of fun. But nothing else comes to mind.
okay. Well, thanks, Jerica. Appreciate you being on as always to just walk us through things and making sure we're keeping track of things. That's it for announcements that I have on my end. Tess, is there anything else from your standpoint that we should be covering before digging into kind of reviewing some of these meetings from the past month?
Yeah, not from me. Thanks, Lance.
Okay. Blake and Kevin, anything from you guys?
All good here.
Okay. Alrighty, well, we'll go ahead and move on to the next portion then, which is talking about the public meeting and building code board meeting that happened. And Jerry and Dave will kind of provide us some recap on that stuff.
So the board meeting went good. We did have a chance to take a trip up to North Idaho with Lance. Very productive day. Thank you very much for that. We were somehow ended up first on the discussion with the building code board, and I thought it went really well. The builders really, were, I don't know, you kind of really didn't know where they were at, but it sounded like they were okay with the direction we'd gone in, and really wasn't anything negative on that. So we got our stuff kind of out of the way really quick. Nothing really to respond to. There was an existing concern over a section that Ken Burgess had brought up. And that section turned out to be in the International Building Code. So it wasn't energy related. And then the more we discuss that particular section, I believe it's probably going to get left in there. It's a methodology for accepting. It appeared to be more structure related than anything else. So they will probably leave that in there. But I didn't get any specific comments about anything that we needed to work on. I'll let Damon talk if he wants to. We're still, getting feedback on a couple of sections related to the Commercial Energy Code C406, and hopefully we can have a recommendation by the October meeting. Kind of leaving that in Damon's hands to finish that up. So I think it all went well. Justin asked if I would accompany him to the BCA meeting in Twin Falls. And I know BCA is putting together their annual meeting. I don't know if this is something they want to talk about at that meeting, but they may want some information before that. So just kind of trying to leave my schedule open a little bit, and offering to present to them either at their annual meeting or at their local chapter level. So that's just about all I have. I to talk a little bit more about the board meeting. There was a lot of comment on the snow load, and I forwarded probably the best article that I could find. The article was written by the engineers, the structural engineers. They're the ones that put all of these things together. The snow load tables have not, well, they may have been updated, but the data set that they're using is from the, last century. I think that some of the data was 1990 and older. So the update on this is really overdue. But there's also something in there in the language and the way they're using it that I think is probably going to raise some eyebrows. And it comes back to kind of a redefinition of risk and how it affects. And so I think it's going to look at home values, as part of that assessment. I'm not, I try to stay in my lane. It's not energy code, but if we can do something to help, we will. And so I put that document out to everybody, got it to Doppel, and to the board members. So hopefully that'll give them some of the reasoning. That was the biggest question that came up, was who did it and why. And that seemed to be, where it originated. And then I was going to have Lance talk a little bit about affordable housing. That's another item that, we're spending a lot of time on. Again, it's not strictly code related, but it's part of that overall discussion. So I'll let him see if we can abbreviate some of that, or really what we're trying to find out on that is Jason Blaze, City of Boise, said there was a pretty substantial list of recommendations or subject matter that was brought up, and hopefully, if nothing else, we can reduce that list down to something more significant, so that it's becomes more of an actionable item than a distraction. And so that's kind of my thoughts on that, is we don't want to detract from, the business at hand into areas that may be more subjective, if I may. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I can, well, actually first, Damon, is there anything you wanted to say on the commercial code portion?
Yeah, I can speak on the commercial portion for a bit. The recommendation to Justin Touchstone right now, is the part that's kind of, I'd say, still in flux on the commercial portion of the code is regarding 406, the additional efficiency requirements, which is kind of a new table and energy efficiency credit methodology that's just a different format than 2018. So the two subsections, the phrasing is C406.1.1 to delete exception 2 and the table, and then to delete the additional renewable and load management credit requirements. Since the section is in a different format, trying to gather feedback. Sorry, I have to navigate to my other screen because I want to read specifically the comments I've gotten back from architects. I'm continuing to reach out. It sounds like Justin Touchstone has been in contact with some folks at AIA Idaho, which is great. I've been trying to reach out to their current president and their past president, and then Andy Erstad as well, who's been involved with energy codes for a while. I haven't heard back yet. I might try giving them a call tomorrow, since I just haven't heard anything back by email from those folks specifically. But I have heard from a couple other architects and engineers. So one, I'll go ahead and just read it for the collaborative. I'd say the things that are in common that I've heard so far regarding the switch to IECC 2024 is not a lot of experience with it. There is a recognition that C406 is more complex and might need more education. And there is a desire from two folks that I've heard from so far that they like the push for energy performance, but there's also concern that it could drive up construction costs. And the people I've heard from so far have been open to amendments and want to find a mutual agreement. So I'll just read this first one. So I have not really gotten into looking at the 2024 code much since we're still back in 2018. We have used 2021 code on a number of projects and noticed improvements to energy efficiency, but those can be challenging to meet sometimes. Looking at 406, the additional efficiency requirements, it appears to be good in general and push much of the energy performance that many have pushed for years. I like that it gives different paths to meet compliance via earned credits. From a design side, I think there will need to be lots of education for design professionals on how to navigate the section. Hopefully, some of the elements of ComCheck could be adapted to help in tracking and calculating the credits. On a side note, ComCheck 2021 needs to be more cloud focused to help bring in consultants to build the whole model. Right now, there's just a lot of sharing files back and forth. From a developer's side, I can see this impacting their performa and potentially driving up the construction costs. It would be good to educate them on how it saves money and energy in the long run. My guess is that the legislature could be a battle on this, assuming they have final say on adoption. So I appreciated the time some of these architects put in responding. The next response is similar. This architect wrote, "I'm in favor of managing total carbon emissions, not just operational, but also embodied, and am in favor of designing more resilient buildings that can weather a changing climate and provide protection for humans. Obviously, you can do this with conditioning instead of a robust envelope, but without a robust envelope, you're effectively conditioning the outdoors as well as the indoors, which is a little nonsensical in my opinion. That being said, I'm not in favor of designing robust envelopes that take a high tax in embodied emissions, so that needs to be balanced. Regarding the energy efficiency requirements, I'm in favor of keeping them. Even with increased codes, we are very far off from reaching any 2030 targets, and we need what help we can get. Regarding the renewable requirements, I do not think it's a good idea to design any buildings today that don't accommodate renewables, but I realize the economics of them are challenging in Idaho without net metering and low energy costs. Load management on buildings of scale when renewables are incorporated is critical, but I don't know enough of this if it can be cost effectively retrofitted when renewables become economical here. If so, I would accept leaving them out. I also want to acknowledge that even if it seems like it might be a smooth process right now, there are likely other interests that could derail it, and it might be better to make sure that all parties are engaged and find a mutual agreement. I haven't been engaged in many of the meetings so far for a combination of reasons, partly communication and partly too busy to attend. I've been more engaged in the past and appreciate the outreach. And then the final portion of this comment was, there's another conversation happening around affordable housing that may end up undermining any portion of the energy code. I attended a legislative committee meeting recently, and it was at least 50% presentations by manufacturing companies and contractors who are opposed to the overreach of building codes, especially increased energy codes. I hope that AIA might have an opportunity to have a voice in this, but I think it would be best if there are allies and data to back that up. Not sure where the legislators or committee will land, but there's still clearly pressure to remove the energy code altogether. None of this is the opinion of AIA Idaho, but I'd be happy to engage the advocacy group to get together and come up with a position or stance to provide our view, and we've done that in the past. And then the final comment that I've gotten is from an engineer, and he wrote, "I'm not terribly familiar with the 2024 code at this point, but with a glance at section 406, I'd probably lean towards striking it in its entirety. I'd have to dig into it quite a bit more to see what it would really involve for owners, designers, etc., but it seems really complex. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the 2024 code in general, but not necessarily opposed to adopting it with modifications after review." So with that, I also had a meeting yesterday, Monday. I can't remember, Jerica. This week has been a blur, but a very helpful meeting with Jerica and Jason Toves from ICC.
Yeah.
Toves. Looking at, if 406 is so complex, is it worth it to remove all of it rather than just those first two subsections? And the issues with removing 406 in its entirety is that it does affect other portions of the code. So there would be additional amendments required in Idaho. One is section 407, which is the performance path, which relies on calculations from the energy credits in section 406. The other is chapter 5 for existing buildings, which has references to the energy efficiency credits, but you only need to have 50% of them, 50% of those credits in different categories. The other complexity with removing 406 is that as one architect mentioned, there's a desire for a tie-in to ComCheck, right, which a lot of architects are using for their reviews. And if you take section 406 out, then Idaho, rather than just looking at ComCheck for 2024, IACC 2024 Climate Zone 5B, there would need to be a new Idaho specific version of ComCheck. For that, Idaho would need to submit a request to the Pacific Northwest National Lab to create that. How quickly they would get to that request and whether they have funding to do so seems like a very open question at this point. So for the sake of keeping ComCheck usable with in 2024, it seems like it seems like keeping section 406 in is helpful for that. It also sounds, and Jarek, if I'm misrepresenting any of this, please feel free to jump in, but it also sounds like this energy efficiency credit mechanism and tables are going to be a feature of future code cycles. This is not just a one-off for 2024. So for any future energy codes, specifically 2027 and perhaps the next round after that, they're including this kind of design matrix and method to give designers choice of how they're going to meet energy efficiency beyond the simple envelope requirements that are in the base code. Jarek, is that a fair representation of the meeting and conversation?
Yeah, I think you hit everything right on the head. I think the only thing I would add is that, if the state is considering amending out C406, I think there needs to be consideration on whether or not you retain what was in 2018, because that's how we got additional energy efficiency in 2018, actually all the way back to at least probably the 2009 code where we introduced additional efficiency package options. So I think you would have to have a discussion on whether you would retain some amount of those provisions, essentially add them to the 2024 code in 2018 format to retain the efficiency that you had gotten from those up to that point.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so in a sense, it'd almost be, if we remove 406, it'd be rolling back even further back from 2018, because 2018 does include the section on additional efficiency requirements.
Yes.
There, it was just like selecting a particular category. Now it's kind of a pathway that more depends on the building type and the climate zone for selecting some of those.
To choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Anyway, I know I've been talking a lot, so thanks for bearing with me through those comments. And we're continuing to do outreach. Unfortunately, Dylan's out sick today. I think he's had a few more comments as well, and we'll continue to just update the collaborative as we hear back from more folks. Any comments or questions so far on what I've shared? Sure.
Eamon, has ASHRAE been able to chime in yet?
No word yet from ASHRAE, no.
Okay, so the only feedback from the engineers is that the last feedback. The rest are all architect feedback.
Yes, and I'm going to be I've got a list of folks that I'm going to send a second email to, and then maybe start calling next week to try to get more engineers. And I'm trying to do my best to not just get architects or engineers that IDL works with a lot, which would probably be more on the pushing energy efficiency mindset. I'm trying to get a broad cross section of just industry in Boise. So even those that IDL hasn't interacted with, which might be why I've heard a few crickets, because they might not know who I am or things like that. So
Have you talked to Bob Ticker yet?
Not yet, no.
You
I've
should
talked
add
to
him to his list.
Yeah, I've
Just
talked
because he's
to-
pretty vocal.
He is, yeah. I've talked to Robin Vowell a little bit, who's at Ticker Engineering, but haven't talked to Bob himself yet.
And then I have one other question. I don't know if all of you stayed on, but there was some serious concerns brought up by Guho, I can't remember his first name, about the IBC, the 2024 IBC. And is there any interactions with the IBC that could be a concern? Because there seemed to be some real reluctance to adopt the 2024 IBC.
Do you remember what their specific concerns were, Sheree? I can ask my colleagues if they have any input on that.
I don't think that I think their concerns were more general, that it's too new. We haven't looked at it. We don't have the experience even to comment. A lot of people haven't adopted it yet, so we haven't seen the issues. It was more kind of the general, very similar concerns that I had with the energy code, was that they didn't feel like they've had enough time to even know if there's issues in it.
Okay, thank you.
So
That's
I
helpful.
think, and I believe Andrew Bick said the next meeting would be dedicated to going through those slides that I think Justin originally provided with changes between the IBC 2024. And so I would expect to hear a lot more at the next meeting. But I just didn't know if there was any ties that we should be aware of, because I think previously I had thought that that was going to go through easily. And so that would make sense that we align, but I don't know that I got that impression at the last meeting.
Any other comments on the IBC question that Sheree's bringing up? One comment I did want to ask, talk to you about, Damon, and we can compare notes later, but, maybe it might be worth looking at the engineer list and architect list to see that we're reaching out to the right people in our code collaborative MailChimp list.
Yeah.
So let me run a quick download CSV to send over to you. Then maybe when you have a chance, you can work with Dylan and let me know if there's anyone I need to add to the list.
Sure.
So it is a challenge because we range between, sometimes people want our updates, but sometimes it's not going to always be relevant. Sometimes it's going to be about trainings, and some people are not interested in that. But if there's anyone we need to add, we certainly want to reach as many people as we can through the code collaborative to keep them involved in this process.
This is Todd with Idaho Power. Real quick question. The collection of all these stakeholder comments, I'm trying to remember back in previous cycles, if there's a formal process, for example, on the September 9th meeting or the two after that in October, is there a general request for commentaries? Because I was talking to my leader here last week, and that person even said, we will be wanting to create a letter. And I said, well, just, stand by. We're just entering that stage. But is it possible these other stakeholders that we're trying to talk to are already sending in comments to a different route? I mean, directly to the board, for example, or are we assuming they need to go through us, kind of thing?
Now, they anything that's submitted, this is Jerry, anything that's being submitted has to go to the board. So if it's sent to Justin and or the board, it all is still going to the boards. Justin sometimes will kind of condense the comments, but all of the individual letters and stuff are part of their board packet.
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, so we would expect to get the copies that in those meetings, like the 9th of next month. Is that right?
Copies of all the comments.
Well, just letters of recommendations of, pro or con. I just remember seeing those previously, stack of 200 responses on.
Yeah, I'm sure you could request it, but they're probably not going to print it out and make it available.
Okay.
I'm sure you could. I think if they usually share the board packet information, or you could request a copy of the board packet from Justin. He would give you a link to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's usually a considerable number of pages.
Yeah, and Todd, addressing that as well. I know that in terms of other groups that might go directly to the board, the two that I'm trying to track is ASHRAE and AIA. I know that ASHRAE has not submitted anything in the past. It was kind of the ASHRAE kind of national had kind of a template letter, which was just broadly supportive of adopting new energy codes, right? That's that ASHRAE National is probably has they're partly they're helping develop 90.1 and some of these standards, so they're very pro energy code, whereas individual members of ASHRAE might have different individual opinions, like Bob Ticker, for example. And in terms of AIA, that's what I'm trying to find out. It sounds like Justin has been in touch with some folks from AIA Central. And I've asked if he'd be willing to share any of those comments with me, but I just haven't heard back. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm just curious if we're trying to get a sense of or pulse of what these folks are thinking out there.
Mm-hmm.
That link that Jerry mentioned might be the avenue in case they're going around us, just for whatever reason, But thanks, Damon.
One thing I was going to mention too, Todd, is I know that when it comes to legislative committee meetings, working with the secretaries tends to be helpful. So Amanda Lee, that's who I typically have communicated with getting information from the board, whether it's the agendas or whatever it is. But that might be the best person for us to reach out to if you're looking to get those comments. I can forward you her contact information.
Yeah, if you think of it, yeah, because I also need to inform Idaho Power because we need to begin preparing our letter. I just don't want to miss the opportunity. If there's a formal process of requesting that outwardly from the legislator or the state of Idaho.
Yeah, I'll send you Amanda's contact, but I think if there's comments that Idaho Power wants to submit, that'd probably be the best person to submit to, and she could forward it on to the board, or you can CC the board with your comments. But I'm assuming, based off my interactions in the past, that she'd be the one to gather that to make sure the board has to review and to comment on if they feel necessary at their board meetings.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, Lance, I wonder if you've communicated with Amanda before. Would you mind just reaching out and asking about whether they're planning on publicly posting the board packets or those comments? Because Todd, you're right, during the ZBR, they did post all the full board packets, including those 200 pages of comments. So I'd be curious if they're planning on doing that this round as they get into this last sort of phase of the negotiated rulemaking.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'll probably do is I'll just email her directly, and then once I get a response back from her, I will just send that response out to the NEA group chat that I have formed in that email chain.
Great.
That way they can all have a chance to look at it. So I'll keep you guys updated, but probably expect something at least by middle of next week. So because I have to be out of the office on Mondays.
Yeah, and I guess if you could also ask for clarification on the deadline for comments, because I do remember hearing in a meeting, it might have been the August 11th meeting, where Justin said that public comments were due by October 22nd. But to me, that didn't make sense because it sounds like the October 21st meeting is maybe when they have to vote. So it wouldn't make sense for the comments to be due after that.
Tess, this is Todd. Yeah, and I appreciate you expanding on this because that's what we ran into during that period at Idaho Power to meet the deadlines for the comments, because it was pretty sketchy on when the deadlines were, and I think we were like within a day or even hours of getting something in during some of these negotiation periods. But it just threw a red flag up when I'm hearing about Damon not getting responses. I mean, he's the kingpin, and it just seems weird. There's like some other reason they're not responding. So anyway.
Okay, great. And then if we get some clarification, we can definitely send that out to our full email list to make sure everybody's aware of what the comment deadlines are. And then maybe some additional follow-up with other groups, like I don't know if Idaho is planning on submitting anything on their behalf. So thanks.
So this is Jerry, the October 15th is their last public hearing. So that's a non-quorum meetings, same place, but the board members we will not have a quorum there. So that's a good, kind of a soft deadline, but the comment period is open up until the start of that October 21st meeting. And then if we are not able to, if we have things that are not resolvable, then, we would probably be asking the board not to take action on it. So I'm hoping we can reach some kind of resolution prior to the 21st, because we don't really want to say, well, we need more time, and they'll say, okay, we'll see you next year. We'll try it again. But they do have to, be able to come to, hopefully make a recommendation at the October 21st meeting. So, which this year in particular is the first time that we've went past our August deadline. So we've already been given, quite a healthy extension on it. Normally, all of this would have had to been wrapped up by the end of August. So.
And just to confirm, Tess, on the final date, Justin announced in that meeting, it was the 15th that he put for the final date for comments. That's what I have written down in my notes, which does match up with the October 21st. I mean, my opinion, if comments are going to be submitted by anybody, waiting till the 15th of October would probably not be ideal if you're really looking to get some changes made to it. I think getting that submitted well beforehand is ideal. And then correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry and David, but my understanding is that this next building code board meeting on the 9th is dedicated to having a pretty robust discussion about the commercial code. Is that true?
Yes.
So I think that might be a great opportunity that there is commercial code. I think that's when we're really want to aim for it, because that's when they're going to air it out and kind of talk about things. So I know that's a tight turnaround, but I think that's the next best opportunity, because the board won't get back together fully until October 21st. So that's a pretty large lapse between when they'll be able to come back as a group. I mean, they'll have the public meeting that'll take place on the 15th, but that's not really a time to really deliberate. It's more just to gather the comments and take note of them and kind of figure out what to do with them. But I think that September 9th meeting is a great opportunity. If there's any changes in the commercial code that really need to be made, that's going to be the best time to pound the table. That's my take. Take it for what it's worth, but that's how I read it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lance. Damon, I'm curious if you're available to attend that, and I don't know if there's additional information that could be prepared in advance of that, but I think having you there for possible questions as they relate to the energy code portion of the commercial energy code, and then if there is any possible bridge over with the building code itself.
Yeah, I'll plan to be there in person. I have to leave at 1:30, but I'll be there from 9 till 1:30 at least.
Okay, great.
Couple other things too, just add as a note, and again, stop me if I'm saying anything that's not correct, but just the experiences I've had with Justin touched on going through this process, he seems really open to feedback. And Damon, if you feel like that it'd be good to speak, I think that Justin would do his best to work with you and find a way to fit you in the agenda to be able to address those comments, or at least find a time to be able to talk about it, or if there's any other stakeholders. Justin's been pretty sincere in trying to really get as much feedback as he can to make sure that there can be support or at least neutrality in moving forward on the rules that are being proposed here.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and see if he'd like me to share kind of what we've gathered on the commercial side and comments at that meeting.
Is there any other notes from the building code board meeting, commercial code, moving through the process that anyone has questions about? Todd, I have written down, by the way, that I will reach out to Amanda. I will ask these questions. I appreciate Tess, you adding that point of clarification for me to look into. So once I get that feedback from her, I will email the whole group. But is there anything else that people wanted to work through or talk through while we're together? I can definitely tell everyone's ready for it to be Friday tomorrow. So I understand. I feel it. I understand. So we'll go ahead and move on from that portion. Thanks, Damon, for everything you're doing on the commercial code stuff, to you and Dylan. I know that there's been a lot that you've been working on there. Just wanted to thank Jerry too for, we recently, as Jerry was saying, we took a trip to Northern Idaho. We had a great trip up there. We were able to meet with NIBCA, had a really good discussion with them. And I think kind of just tying it into the commercial discussion, my overall impression from the builders when we met with them was if you can explain a logical argument for why you felt like something needed to happen, they seemed really receptive to it. I wouldn't say everybody, but the overwhelming majority of those, and there was probably 35 people there. It was a good group. It was good to see the back and forth dialogue with Justin, and Jerry did a great job commenting on energy code portions that people had questions about. I think that it shows signs that we're on the right track as far as with trying to get something that hopefully all sides can at least see some wins out of. So we went to that meeting. We met with Ted. Just wanted to thank Ted for taking some time to meet with us. He invited Chris, the Kootenai County building official. So it was really great to be able to chat with them and talk through things. So appreciate their time. We also got to meet with Gregory. He's not here because he's from Vista, but he's on vacation for quite a bit of the summer. But had some good meetings there. The one other thing I did want to mention, it was brought up, Damon, in your comments about that housing study committee. We'll kind of have to wait and see what's going to come out of it. A lot of people have phrased it to me that either it's going to be core action items that they're going to really push in the legislative session, or it's going to be a nothing burger. Right now, I don't think we really know what's going to be. We'll find out more towards the end of September when they have their final meeting. But they did talk about small modular homes. Interesting enough, the town we were in, Sandpoint, they're building modular homes right now. They had 3 that were finished that we were able to take a tour of. Talked about some of the building code aspects, some of the concerns of fire departments and how to manage homes that are closer together and that type of model. And also talking about energy efficiency and things like that. So if anybody's interested, I'm happy to connect you to the planner for the city of Sandpoint if you have any questions for him. We could also look at, maybe trying to see a time where he could maybe hop on a Zoom call to talk about the process, what it's been like. They're still in the very early stages. They didn't talk about things such as like costs for the actual house if someone were to buy it. What do they kind of expect those homes to be used for, and how fast do they expect it to come online? But Sandpoint's in a pretty unique position where there's not much land left to really build on. So that's something they're looking at for their model. But some good notes. I'll continue to keep everyone updated as we have another meeting here at the end of September. And one other note I was going to make is oh man, just spaced it from my mind. I had it on my mind, but I can't remember it. I'll come back to it if I remember it. But those were the big things. It was a good meeting. It was good to see Justin up there interact with people, and we'll continue to keep you guys. Oh, it just came back to me. I sent everyone. Sorry, it took me a little bit. I had to keep saying Justin's name for it to finally come back in my head. But when we were up there and Justin presented to the NIBCA, he had a significant changes document or a PowerPoint presentation. I thought he did a pretty good job of capturing some of the ones that would kind of be the more sensitive items for discussion. So I sent that to everyone. I'll send it again along with the snow load calculation research report that Jerry was able to find. And we'll go from there. But if there's anything that I can help you guys with, please let me know. And I think that's about it for our meeting today. Is there anything else that we need to cover, Tess or Jerry?
I think the only other thing, thanks Lance, appreciate that overview and for sending out those resources. I think the only other thing is just kind of figuring out what we want to do with the collaborative meetings for the next couple months, whether we want to continue with monthly. You know, we've been doing these the last Thursday of the month. With there being a few board meetings coming up, I don't know like what the timing would look like and whether we would have much to discuss until maybe after. I don't know if we want to, I guess, meet before the next board meetings or not.
If we could somehow squeeze in between the 15th and the 21st, because we would have that information from the public hearing on the 15th, and then, see if we have consensus before the meeting on October 21st. It would be nice to, see if this group could come together prior to the board meeting, so that we could, have a position of support. Would that be infringing on everybody, or you think that's valid? It would be nice to have a recommendation from the collaborative.
Yeah, so possibly Thursday the 16th at our usual time. That works for me.
Does that give us enough time? I'm not trying to say we should meet on a different date, but does Thursday meeting in the afternoon give us enough time to be able to review any comments if we have any, make any changes? Because I'm just thinking through here, we'd have realistically Friday and Monday would be your only 2 days to really make changes if there are any. Is that enough time to be able to do that? And that's a question. I'm not trying to be rhetorical in what I'm asking.
I think Monday would be pushing it if we had to change or needed to change something that wouldn't give us much time to do it. That's just my preference would be Thursday.
Are we expecting, and you walk me through this because I wasn't here through the last process, but are we expecting major comments to be coming in on the 15th, or is it going to kind of be like what it was last time, where they'll be there for about an hour, take the comments, and then go home? Like, is the September 9th meeting going to be more important for really figuring out what our strategy is going to be, or is the October 15th meeting also going to be important for getting our input?
It's just my opinion. Dave can weigh in, but the 9th will probably be a lot of presentation, but not a lot of interaction.
Okay.
The interaction, if any, is going to come out the closer it comes to the board taking official action. just my experience.
If the 16th works for everyone, I'm happy to go ahead and get that set up and send that email invite out to everyone. And Daniel can help me in making sure to reserve this room so we have it. But yeah, that sounds great. If that works for everyone, if everyone's in agreement with that, that we'll meet on the 16th at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Yeah, we'll still be a daylight then.
Lance, this is Todd. Real quick question on that contact you're going to send out for us to send letters to. Can you please ask them if they have a template or some way of telling us exactly who this needs to go to, their address, title, all that formal stuff that normally goes on those letters? If that person can also give us that, so it just expedite the creation of the letter, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
They used to have a very specific form.
Yeah, that's what I normally fill out. That just very structured. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'll ask Todd again. This is Lance. I'll ask all those questions. I got it here written down. So let me reach out to Amanda, ask her on those things, and see what she gets back to me, and I will get that back to you and to the rest of this group in case they'd like it as soon as I have a response from her.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification that when they talked about delving into the commercial code on September 9th, that wasn't specific to energy code. Most of the questions and most of the discussion at that last board meeting was around the IBC, the International Building Code. So we will have our part of it, but I think one of the things we spent a lot of time on was discussing property lines and clearances between buildings. And even though this is something the board voted on and approved, there was, it keeps coming up as a life safety concern. And so I think, we're going to see quite a bit of discussion on snow loads, property lines, things like that. So, but I think the 406 is kind of the big item on the energy code.
And we don't know how that interacts with the IBC,
So
if that's going to impact it.
The interaction with the IBC and the IRC is that they're doing all of these as a single rules packet. And so if we want the packet to be successful, then, we need to help them if we can by, moving that entire packet forward. If they can separate it out, and I don't think that would be the direction to go, but if they, if it became unworkable, that may be an option where they just start to fracture it out. I think we would have a massive uphill challenge to do anything with the code with the energy code as a standalone rules. I think it would just become an easy target and they would just not address it. So because we have all of this, framework that we need for energy storage and the fire protection and all of that, I think it's very beneficial to have all of this in a single rules packet.
Yeah, agreed with that. But Cherie, are you asking if there are references within either of the codes that reference each other? Yeah, more
Yes,
like
that's
on
what
the
I was.
specific provisions. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Um,
In my
yeah,
opinion,
oh, go
there are
ahead,
no
Jerica.
new interactions between the two codes. Like no new reference sections where they're referencing each other. The typical ones will carry over from previous years, but there's nothing in the energy code that even relates to or references the provisions that Jerry is talking about right now. So I don't think that is a concern. I mean, obviously, as you're designing the building, you are going to have to keep in mind that section C406 and how that impacts the design. But I don't think there's a lot of concerning interactions with the IBC that we are aware of or have heard about.
Damon, would it be fair to say that we're probably leaning towards leaving 406 in and then surgically removing those two subsections? Is that kind of what you feel is the direction we're going on that?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't want to keep anyone longer than they have to. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Thanks for being on. We'll plan on having another meeting in October, so we'll take off the month of September. Look forward to the September 9th meeting for those of you that can make it. I'll keep everyone updated on those notes that I received from Amanda, and we'll keep moving forward. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you so much for being on. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
And we should